were supposed to have Matt Muchowski on. Matt wasn't on. He was supposed to be on, but he wasn't on. No fault of his own. It happens. But I wanted to make sure that we had him on today. So joining us by way of Zoom is Matt Muchowski, who is, first of all, one of the funniest human beings you'll ever meet in your life. Secondly, he's one of the nicest cats you'll ever meet in your life, too. He, you know what? I lost your bio that fast, Matt, talking about you. I lost it. Yeah, I had it, and now it's gone. It was there.
Well,
I know
yeah,
you. I know you were the. Are you still doing the AFL-CIO stuff?
a little bit, yeah. So,
Matt
yeah,
Muchowski, everybody.
yeah. Thank you, Mario,
You're
and
welcome.
sorry I wasn't able to join you. The election night party for Holly Kim was really out of control.
I can
Uh,
only imagine that it was.
so, I live up in Waukegan, and she is our Lake County treasurer,
Yeah.
and has just been fantastic and very progressive and very supporting of unions and LGBTQ issues, and just a wonderful human being. So we were excited for her to run for comptroller, even if she didn't win the primary. That's okay. There's a future for that one in politics.
How
But
I was curious about your take on what we saw on Tuesday evening and
yeah,
how it all played out. One of the things that we were talking about here, I don't know if you had a chance to catch any of the award-winning coverage. One of the things we were talking about, it was really good, but that was a good show. One of the things we talked about was J.B. Pritzker and what his cachet might be now.
yeah,
Nobody. I was reading my friend Justin Kaufman's piece in Axios today, Axios Chicago, and he brought up a really good point that I was kind of thinking. Nobody has wielded this kind of power since Michael Madigan in the state, and probably before him, Richard J. Daley.
yeah.
How much cachet does J.B. Pritzker have right now?
My notes for this interview, the headline was JB had a really great night Tuesday night. And a lot of us were, you know, we want you to run for president, JB. Why are you getting involved in the state comptroller race when you should be going to eat corn dogs in Iowa, right? And, his pick for comptroller just took it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, his pick for Senate. Raja had a lot of money, but Juliana really came through and won pretty handily. Um, so it's I think the Juliana going to the Senate. We're assuming she's going to win in November. I think that's going to really give JB a national ally, someone in the Senate who can, talk to all the other DC political people and, help make more connections outside of Illinois
Mm-hmm.
for what he plans in 2028.
It seems like, and we were banding this about too. If he doesn't run, does he make Illinois a stronger state nationally, and does that influence affect how the Democrats move this time around in the midterms and in the next presidential election, whether he runs or not?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty convinced the gears are in motion, even if it's not explicitly publicly.
Mm-hmm.
um, so, um, but how far he gets in the primary, I think he's a strong candidate. I think he's going to run as the Midwestern progressive governor who passed the Workers' Rights Amendment. To your point of my union background, I'm very active in the labor get out the vote efforts. And, I'm actually calling you from southern Indiana, where we're doing a little bit of a membership drive with my union today. And my union was out in force on Tuesday. We were helping get out the vote for Jessica Vasquez, Cook County Commissioner, who was appointed to fill a vacancy. So this was her first time running to keep the seat she was appointed to. She won handily on the Northwest side with like 82% of the vote. And then, we did some literature passing for Dan Biss, who was the union endorsed candidate in Illinois 9, which, kind of brings me to my other big headline, which was, a lot of these contested primaries. So if JB had a good night Tuesday, Labor also had a good night. They did not endorse in every open primary. There were a lot of congressional seats that were open on Tuesday. Illinois 9, of course, Jan Schakowsky retired. Illinois 8, Raja Krishnamurthy was running for Senate. Illinois 2, Robin Kelly was running for Senate. Illinois 7, Danny Davis was retiring. So, that's a lot of races. And there were a lot of people running. And the only one of those races that the Illinois AFL-CIO endorsed in was Illinois 9 for Dan Biss. And they also endorsed Pat Hines against the incumbent assessor, Fritz Kagi. And in both cases, the Labor endorsed candidate was successful. So that's, I think kind of reflects their program of, supporting Labor candidates, but also, it's not just about supporting candidates, it's about engagement, educating candidates about labor. When there's multiple pro-labor candidates, it's about, finding the best way to, not, spend resources in a potentially ugly primary fight when we can focus on races where those resources can make a difference for labor.
I want to talk a little bit about PAC money, and just the idea, especially this go around, of so many people going out of their way in these super PACs to basically buy this election and to buy results. Have we reached the point of no return when it comes to that, or do you ever see a piece of legislation that eliminates the super PAC and their wants and needs?
Yeah, I mean, overturning Citizens United, Citizens United was the Supreme Court ruling that really unleashed the floodgates of dark money, of corporate super PAC money. It's very popular among voters. And, even among, a lot of Democratic politicians who tell themselves they have to accept that money to get elected, like they would also be happy to overturn that. Because I think a lot of them don't want to have to spend all their time fundraising, but we know that on the other side, the Republicans dead set in support of all that corporate money. It's gonna, take a real national movement. And I think it's one of those things that it's not exactly a bread and butter issue. It's a little process politics to talk about sometimes. It's a little bit of like inside baseball of like how campaigns are funded.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also one of those things that cuts to the core of, how do we get representatives who care about the bread and butter issues that matter for working people. And part of it is you gotta limit how much corporations can spend and give more opportunities for working people to have a voice. We're seeing how in Congress the Republicans are really pushing this SAVE Act, which would require IDs to vote and require extra standards in order to vote, and would put at risk the voting rights of like married women who have changed their name. Um, some of the stuff it's requiring in terms of like photo ID and passports, like 1/10 of all voters could like be impacted by something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So these, we're fortunate to live in a state like Illinois where, you go to get your driver's license and you're automatically registered to vote at the Secretary of State's office, right? Where we have uh, absentee, ballots that you don't need a reason
Right.
for, right? You just want it. And in places like Lake County, you have the ability to vote at any polling place in the county, right? So often people show up at the wrong polling place, and it takes time to drive to the correct one. It takes time to get all the paperwork sorted out.
Particularly folks in
Um,
rural counties.
yeah. So, that's not in every county in Lake County or in Illinois, but the fact that we're seeing that become more of a thing, you don't have that in these Republican controlled states. So, but if I can go back to your question of PACs, there was a lot of attention this this election on the role of APAC in these races.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the answer we got was kind of muddled in terms of how much of an impact APAC had. A race like Illinois 9 with Dan Biss and Kat Abigazale and Laura Fine all fighting to, be Jan Schakowsky's successor. Laura Fine got a lot of APAC money. Kat Abigazale really railed against APAC. Dan Biss had initially kind of reached out to them, but then pivoted and was like, you know what? I'm not for their politics. And I don't like how they try to influence elections with their PAC money. And, I think like that might actually be part of why Dan Biss was so dangerous to APAC. And why they actually ran more attack ads against Dan Biss than anyone. Because I think they can tell that Biss is someone who, he's not going out on a limb just to go out on a limb. He's definitely assessing the political headwinds. And, he made a decision that being against APAC was more beneficial than being for APAC. So I'm sure, they're not super happy about that. But, that was not the only race that they were influencing. And when you look at their chosen candidates in Illinois 2, Donna Miller, and Illinois 7, Melissa Bean, or I'm sorry, Illinois 8, Melissa Bean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just very they won very easily, right? I mean, Donna Miller beat Jesse Jackson Jr., right? So it's kind of a mixed result there in terms of you know whether it was a good night for pro-Palestinian progressives or a good night for APAC. Probably little bit of each, you know.
Yeah. Real quick, in the time that we have left, what stood out to you on election night, and what is your forecast for November? If we could do that in March.
Yeah, I think it's gonna come down to turnout, and I think this is a midterm election year. People are very upset at Trump. The Democratic base is fired up, and the Republican base, I think, is splintered. I think, it's very easy for a lot of us progressives to kind of, make fun of, the Republicans who thought that they were voting against war when they voted for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But, that they are people who voted that way, and now they are, splintered, right? And I think we're going to see Democrats come out in force across the country. And that's why you see the Republicans in Congress pushing stuff like the SAVE Act to make it harder for people to vote, because they know that this is their voter suppression program. It's how they stay in power. But I think a lot of us are of course concerned about, okay, Democrats win control of the House. There's some light glimmer that they might take control of the Senate. Is that going to be recognized, right? We know that Trump has no care about the law or democratic norms.
Yes, that is very true. We
and
definitely know that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't want to despair. I don't want people to give up the fight, but like we have to really dig in and be prepared, for Trump to really go places that we can't even imagine.
Matt Muchowski, thank you very much, my friend. I'm sorry we didn't get to do it on election night, but perhaps we will have this opportunity in November, and we will have you in. And I was supposed to play you in with this music too. That's why it's playing now.
Well, thank you so much, Mario, and yeah.
Won't make it
radio.
so long in between the 2020 and now. We'll try to make it a little bit more frequent that we have you around.
Absolutely. We'll do a crossover. You should come on my show sometime.
There it is. You should tell people about your show.
Who Gives Up with Matt Muchowski.
Yes.
I forget if it's first and third or second and fourth Sundays now, but it's 3 p.m. And it's an interview show. We interview political guests, musical guests, comic book artists, just anyone who seems interesting.
I'd love to come on sometime. Let me know, man. We'll work it. We'll do a crossover. It'll be like Chicago Fire and Chicago Med.
Absolutely.
Matt Muchowski, thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Take care.
Right on. You too.